My name is Detective Pierce. I have walked through crypts, empty churches, and towns that should have stayed buried. But nothing prepares you for the silence of a place meant to be alive. The city's underground breathes differently at night. The trains stop. The crowds vanish. What remains are the tunnels, arteries of stone and steel that stretch endlessly beneath the streets. They are not meant to be empty. They are not meant to echo. And yet that is where I found myself. It began with a call. A station inspector, voice trembling through the receiver, said only this. "Detective, something is moving in the tunnels. Trains are delayed, workers missing. We hear things when we go down there." I asked what kind of things. He hung up. When I arrived, the platform was deserted. The electric lamps flickered, their buzzing louder than the absence of people. A notice board still displayed the schedules, but every arrival and departure time had been crossed out in thick black marker, as though someone wanted to erase the idea of trains entirely. The inspector was waiting for me at the end of the platform. Pale, sweat clinging to his collar, he didn't shake my hand. He only pointed to the service gate that led down into the tunnels. "The night crew went in 2 days ago," he whispered. "They didn't come back. And listen." At first, I thought it was just the rattle of the lights, or the groan of the pipes. But then I heard it too, faint, beneath us. The sound of wheels on rails. A train moving. But there was no train scheduled, no conductor, no passengers. Only the echo of something old, metallic, dragging itself through the veins of the earth. The inspector pressed the lantern into my hand and stepped back, his eyes begging me not to go. But I had already decided. If something down there had awakened, it would not return to sleep on its own. I pushed open the iron gate and descended the stairwell. The air grew colder, damp. The stone walls glistened like skin. Every step echoed louder than the last. When I reached the tunnel floor, the lantern's glow barely pierced the black. The rails stretched endlessly, swallowed by the dark. And then the wind changed. Cold, rushing past me, carrying the scent of rust and something else, something sweet. Rotting. Far ahead, deeper in the dark, I saw a light. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and I realized I was not alone. The light grew stronger the deeper I went, flickering in uneven rhythms, as though the tunnel itself was breathing. My boots scraped against the gravel, the lantern trembling in my hand, every step pulling me further away from the safety of the platform and into something that should not exist. Then I heard it again. The sound of a train, metal grinding against metal, the low thunder of wheels on tracks. But the rails beneath my feet were still, dead, cold. I pressed my ear to the steel and froze. The vibration was there, real, strong, yet no train passed. The pulsing light ahead grew brighter until it filled the curve of the tunnel. And then, through the haze, I saw it, a train, or what remained of one. Its cars were twisted, blackened as though burned long ago, their windows shattered, jagged glass glinting faintly. The metal moaned, stretching unnaturally, as if it were alive. And inside I saw shadows, figures seated in silence, motionless, their heads all turned toward me in perfect unison. The train did not move on wheels. It hovered slightly above the tracks, groaning, sparks of pale light dripping from its body like blood. The lantern flickered in my hand, and in that instant, I saw them clearer. The passengers, faces bloated, skin peeling, mouths locked open in silent screams, eyes black as coal, watching me. I took a step back. The air grew colder, thick, pressing against my chest. Then the doors of the first car screeched open, not sliding, not mechanical, but tearing, like flesh. Something stepped out. Tall, gaunt, its limbs too long, bending at unnatural angles, its head tilted, neck snapping like dry wood, as it sniffed the air. The lantern's glow caught its face, if it could be called that. Skin stretched thin over a skull, mouth torn wider than human, teeth jagged, chattering softly like distant rails. It spoke, though its lips never moved. A voice filled the tunnel, low, resonant, echoing inside my skull. "You shouldn't be here, Pierce. This line runs only for the dead." The train roared, its shadowy passengers swaying in unison, as though acknowledging the creature's words. And then I realized something. The seats weren't filled with shadows. They were filled with the missing workers. Their lifeless eyes followed me. Their corpses were now passengers of this underground graveyard. The creature's words hung in the tunnel like frost, heavy, suffocating. Every instinct I had told me to run, but the air was thick as tar, weighing me down. The ghost train groaned, its twisted frame trembling as though hungry. The passengers, those poor workers, sat frozen in their seats, their eyes wide, black voids that seemed to devour the faint light of my lantern. And then the creature moved. Not walking, not crawling. It glided forward, its limbs dragging loosely as though joints were an afterthought. Each step sounded like bones snapping under weight, echoing against the steel walls. Its head tilted from side to side, too far, too sharp, as if it were trying to see me from every angle at once. Alive, it whispered, not with a voice, but with thought vibrating deep inside my skull. One seat remains. The train answered the creature's words. The ruined doors of another car split open with a wet tearing sound. Inside, a seat gleamed faintly. Not old, not rotted, but pristine. Empty. Waiting. And that's when I understood. This train, this thing, was not merely a graveyard. It was a feeder. It collected the dead, yes, but it needed the living to keep moving. Each time it appeared, it claimed one more soul, one more passenger for its endless journey through the tunnels of the forgotten. The air shifted. The lantern sputtered violently, and shadows pressed closer, heavy and suffocating. The bloated, rotting passengers began to stir. Slowly, almost gently, their heads turned away from me, and toward the empty seat. Their mouths opened wide, releasing a low, vibrating hum that rattled the tunnel walls. A chant, an invitation, or perhaps a demand. The creature stretched its arm, impossibly long, its fingers bending backward as though broken 100 times and forced into this grotesque shape. It pointed at me. Sit! I stepped back, but the tunnel betrayed me. The ground shifted, loose gravel scattering beneath my boots, forcing me closer to the edge of the tracks. The faint rumble of phantom wheels shook the air, and suddenly, for just a heartbeat, I thought I could feel the breath of the passengers on my skin. Cold, damp, like earth just turned in a grave. The lantern flickered again, and in that stuttering light I saw something worse. The workers, the missing men, were not bound to their seats by death alone. Rusted nails pierced their arms, wire wrapped around their throats. They had been fixed into place, forced to stare forward for eternity. And the pristine seat? It bore no chains. It didn't need them, because once you sat, you didn't rise again. I clenched my jaw and steadied my breath. This wasn't just horror, it was ritual. This thing, this train, had rules. And rules could be broken. But before I could act, the creature lunged forward. Its body did not leap. It stretched, bones cracking, skin peeling, moving like a whip through the stale air. It came too close, the stench of rot and scorched metal choking me. Its face hovered inches from mine, and its jagged teeth clicked like train wheels hitting brakes. You hear it, don't you? The thought pressed into me, invasive, burning. The rails calling. The last passenger. The journey must continue. And then the train howled. Not a whistle, not a horn, something alive. A scream of metal and flesh, the sound of 100 voices bound together. The tunnel shook, dust falling from above, the very air seeming to collapse inward. I realized then, I wasn't fighting to escape. I was fighting to keep the train from leaving. Because if it did, it would not vanish into some cursed darkness. It would come back, again, and again, until every seat was filled. The realization struck me with the weight of stone. If this train's endless journey depended on filling every seat, then breaking the cycle meant denying it its final passenger. But how? My breath fogged in the icy air, and every flicker of my lantern showed the truth in sharper, crueler detail. The passengers weren't just dead, they were bound. Chains grown into flesh, nails hammered through bone, mouths locked open in silent screams. It wasn't just death, it was sacrifice. And if this thing required ritual, then perhaps I could undo it. I took one slow step forward. The creature did not stop me. It only leaned back, head tilted, jaws wide, as though certain that inevitability would drive me into that empty seat. The passengers moaned, the chant swelling, their voices scraping against the walls of the tunnel. I raised the lantern higher, its light spilling over the rusted seats, and that's when I saw it. One man's restraints weren't as deep. The wires at his throat were loose, the nails in his arms bent, perhaps not driven all the way through. His eyes, God help me, moved. He was alive, or at least, not fully taken. If I could free him, replace the living passenger the train required, then maybe, just maybe, it would break the ritual. The creature's gaze sharpened. I could feel it in my skull, probing, pushing, trying to force me toward the gleaming, pristine seat. Its limbs tensed, muscles straining against decayed flesh. I moved anyway. Each step was a battle, my boots dragging through gravel that seemed eager to hold me in place. I gritted my teeth, pulled against the pressure, and staggered toward the half-bound man. The closer I came, the louder the chanting became. The passengers' voices rose to a roar, a unified shriek that split my skull. Their heads turned, snapping unnaturally fast, until every eyeless gaze was fixed on me. The man trembled, his lips forming a single word. Help! I dropped the lantern beside him, the light spilling across his face, pale and bloodied. My hands wrapped around the rusted nails, slick with dark rot. The smell was unbearable, but I pulled, muscles screaming as iron scraped bone. The train screamed back. The walls shook, rails trembling as though the whole tunnel were about to collapse. The creature let out a howl that wasn't sound at all, but pure vibration, rattling my teeth and my skull. One nail came free. The man gasped, blood bubbling at his throat, but life still flickered in him. I reached for the second, but the creature moved. It didn't run. It didn't lunge. It appeared. One moment across the car, the next looming over me, its long arms curling like ropes, fingers stretching toward my chest. I yanked the nail free just as it struck. The air collapsed, pressure slamming me against the seat frame. My ribs screamed, my lungs burning as though fire had filled them. The freed man slumped forward, coughing blood, but alive. The train reacted. The pristine seat darkened, its glow fading, rust blooming across its surface. The chanting faltered, breaking into discordant screams. The creature convulsed, its limbs snapping, body writhing as though caught in an unseen storm. I had broken the ritual, but the tunnel was not letting me go. The walls cracked, the rails split, and the train itself roared in agony. The passengers thrashed, their chains rattling, their bodies tearing against nails and wires. The freed man collapsed into my arms, trembling violently, whispering nonsense between gasps. The creature's face twisted, its skull splitting open to reveal rows of jagged teeth that stretched endlessly. Its voice, its thought, slammed into me with the force of thunder. One must ride. I understood then. Breaking the cycle was not enough. It demanded balance. If I freed one, another had to take his place. The man in my arms was shaking, half dead, but alive. His wide, broken eyes pleaded with me, not to save him, not to run, but simply to decide. And I did. I turned, shoved him toward the tunnel's gravel floor, and stepped forward. Not into the pristine seat, it was gone, but into the place he had left behind. The rusted frame bit into my skin. The nails were cold as ice. The chains coiled around my wrists, around my throat, like living snakes. The pain was blinding, but I forced my eyes open and fixed them on the creature. "You wanted a passenger," I whispered through blood and broken breath. "You'll have me." The lantern flickered once, and went dark. The last sound I heard before the tunnel swallowed me whole was the grinding of wheels, the scream of rails, and the mournful wail of a train that would ride forever.